Once upon a time, in what is now southwestern Nigeria, there once flourished a mighty kingdom, a land where wisdom, power, and divine tradition intertwined like the roots of an ancient tree. The Yoruba Empire was a realm of splendor where the gods smiled upon their children and the spirits of ancestors whispered guidance through the rustling leaves. At the very heart of this empire stood its sacred capital, a city brimming with life and majesty. The streets pulsed with the voices of merchants calling out their wares, fine fabrics, fragrant spices, and gold from distant lands. Skilled artisans shaped iron into weapons and clay into magnificent sculptures. The rivers ran deep and strong, feeding the fields that yielded bountiful harvests. It was a land of prosperity, ruled by the wise and powerful king, Oranmiyan, a king whose word was law and whose justice was as firm as the mountains that touched the sky. For many years the empire flourished in peace, guarded by warriors whose spears gleamed under the golden sun. But peace, like the morning mist, is never eternal. From the depths of the vast and uncharted forest beyond the empire's borders, darkness stirred. A menace, unseen and unstoppable, crept upon the villages like a silent storm. They came as shadows, silent, swift, and merciless. The forest invaders, as the people called them, were warriors clad in disguises woven from leaves and bark, their faces obscured by masks that bore the twisted visages of spirits long forgotten. They struck under the cover of night, their torches painting the sky with fire, their war cries shattering the peace of the land. Villages burned, families were torn apart. The invaders plundered food, seized treasures, and worst of all, carried away the innocent, men, women, and children, dragging them into the black depths of the forest, never to be seen again. The Yoruba warriors, though strong and fearless, found themselves powerless against an enemy that fought not with brute strength, but with deception and terror. Each time the warriors prepared an ambush, the invaders melted into the shadows, slipping between the trees like ghosts. Fear gripped the land. Mothers clutched their children to their chests, whispering prayers to the gods. Elders spoke of ancient curses, of spirits angered by forgotten rituals. Even the bravest warriors, men who had faced death 100 times, began to wonder, were these invaders truly humans? Or were they demons sent by the gods to punish the people for their sins? But when all hope seemed lost, there arose a woman whose name would echo through eternity. The woman who would not be broken. Her name was Moremi, a queen of unparalleled beauty and wisdom. She was the wife of the mighty warrior king Oranmiyan. Moremi was beloved not only for her grace, but for her intellect, her courage, and her unwavering love for her people. She walked among them not as a distant monarch, but as a protector, a mother, a guiding light, and she could not bear to see them suffer. Each night she sat outside of her palace, her mind racing heavily due to the recent attacks that took place in the empire. The warriors had tried and failed to defeat the invaders with strength alone, and to her, there had to be another way which didn't include brute force. And then a thought came to her. She needed to visit the Asinmiran river goddess. Under the pale light of the moon, Moremi walked alone to the sacred river. The waters whispered secrets only the gods could hear, the wind carrying the scent of earth and destiny. She knelt at the water's edge, her heart pounding and her voice steady. "Great goddess of Asinmiran," she called out, her voice echoing into the night. "Hear my plea. The invaders strike like ghosts, and my people are helpless against them. Grant me the wisdom to save my land, and I shall give you whatever you ask in return." The river stirred, the waters rose like mist, and a voice ancient and knowing filled the air. "Moremi, daughter of courage, your request shall be granted. I have seen your tears flow like my river, and your prayers have broken through the skies. I would help you, but you must know that my knowledge comes with a price. When victory is finally yours, you must bestow to me your most precious offering." In a desperate attempt to save her people, Moremi accepted without thinking this through. After all, she was the wife of the king. What could she not afford? And with that, her fate was sealed. The river goddess gave her an idea, to let herself get captured and be taken to the forest invaders' homeland. There, she would help her find favor in the sight of their leader and learn the secret to the strength of the forest invaders. Moremi, although scared at first, accepted this solution as it was the only way to save her people. The next day, Moremi set her plan into motion. She cast off her royal garments, dressing in the simple robes of a commoner. Alone, she wandered to the edge of the great forest, her heart steady and her steps sure. It did not take long before the invaders came like a breath of wind, seizing her, binding her hands, and dragging her into the heart of their hidden village. They thought she was just a commoner, not knowing that she was the queen of the land they had just raided. She expected terror, but instead, she found revelation. The invaders were not spirits, they were men, flesh and blood, as vulnerable as the warriors of the Yoruba Empire. Their power lay not in magic, but in illusion. Their ghostly disguises, their swift and silent attacks, their fearsome masks, these were their greatest weapons. Moremi, radiant and cunning, caught the eye of their leader. Enchanted by her beauty, he made her his wife. And so, Moremi played her part. She spoke little, watched, and learned everything. And eventually, after asking the leader about his people, he revealed their greatest weakness: fire. Their disguises, woven from dry leaves and fabric, burned easily, and this was the only way they could be defeated. Armed with this knowledge, Moremi fled into the dead of night, running as though the spirits themselves pursued her. When she finally reached the capital, her people were shocked. They knew she had been captured, and since they believed the invaders were spirits, they thought she could not have survived. But Moremi explained everything to them: how she staged her capture, how she went to the invaders' homeland to learn their secret, as advised by the Asinmiran goddess herself. She stood before the king, her voice unwavering. They are not spirits, they are men, and fire is their weakness. Armed with this new knowledge, the Yoruba warriors prepared for battle. The next time the invaders struck, they were met not with fear, but with flames. Torches blazed in the darkness, setting the enemy's disguises alight. The once mighty invaders shrieked in terror, their illusions shattered, and without their deception, they were no match for the warriors of the Yoruba Empire. That night, the entire warriors of the forest invaders were wiped out, and their village was raided by the Yorubas to save their people who were taken into captivity. That night, the kingdom was saved, and the war finally ended. The people began worshiping and praising Moremi for her bravery and calling her a woman more courageous than 1,000 men. They sang songs of praises in her name and thanked her for the gift of peace. Moremi returned to the Asinmiran River, bearing offerings of gold, fine cloth, and treasures fit for a goddess. But the goddess's voice thundered, "Moremi, this isn't what the spirits asked for. You made a promise to the spirits of the river, telling us that you would offer us your most precious offering, and this isn't it." Moremi began thinking what could be more precious than what she offered. That was when it dawned upon her on what the goddess actually demanded. Her only son, Ella. Tears fell like rain as Moremi wept and begged. The people, upon hearing this, also wept and protested against the river goddess and its spirits. The king himself trembled with sorrow, but the Asinmiran goddess was unyielding. Moremi, knowing fully well that if she refused the demands of the goddess, the spirit would once again release choas, agony and terror upon the land. With a grief that shook the heavens and the earth, Moremi kept her word as choas. She offered her beloved son to the river and its spirits. The land mourned and tears flowed down the faces of its people. But this sacrifice eventually led to the return of joy and prosperity to the empire. Moremi's sacrifice was never forgotten, and the Idi festival was established in her honor, a grand celebration where her tale would be sung for generations. Statues were built, and her name became eternal, whispered in the winds and carried in the hearts of the Yoruba people. Even now, when tales of bravery are told, they speak of Moremi, the woman who defied fear, the queen who saved her people, the mother who gave everything for her kingdom,